Hi, thank you for watching my PowerPoint presentation, listening to my PowerPoint presentation. My name is Aaron French. I'm a registered nurse, and I'm going to present to you today some information about the use of cannabinoids in the use of pain. So what is CBD? What is cannabinoid? Cannabinoids are produced by the cannabis plant family. They are not to be confused with tetrahydrocannabinol, which we commonly know as THC, the actual element that produces the high in marijuana. Obviously part of the cannabis family. So therefore it's important to recognize that CBD has been identified as not a psychoactive component of the cannabis plant. So a little cellular foundation. Several years ago, I believe it was in the 90s, it was discovered that all mammals have what is called an endocannabinoid system. This system is composed of brain receptors, otherwise labeled as CB1 and CB2 receptors. CB1 has been identified as the receptor that is responsible for the psychoactive component of THC, has effect on the central nervous system, whereas CB2 receptors have effect on the immune system. These receptors assimilate the CBD molecules, which results by the psychoactive and immune response. So psychoactive, again, is the CB1 receptor, and CB2 receptors are the immune response. As we know, and according to the CDC, approximately 20.4% of U.S. adults suffer from chronic pain, and a significant amount of them, 8%, have deleterious effects that reduce their quality of life. As primary care prescribers, we are fully aware of the commonality of people coming into our offices and presenting with some sort of pain. And so in light of the opioid epidemic and the reduction in prescribing of opioids, reasonably so, I believe it behooves us to look at all modalities to treat pain. And it goes way beyond just CBD or prescribing medical marijuana. It goes into other complementary alternative medical therapies that it's important, whether it's chiropractic, essential oils, acupuncture, CAM therapies, and the anecdotal testimonies that many of us hear and that maybe have even experienced ourselves in the treatment of pain should not be dismissed. It's important to hear those, because until there's further evidence, scientific evidence, that describes why CBD or other CAM therapies have effect on pain, that all we have is testimonial evidence. So it's very important to listen to people and patients regarding this. Schrott et al., in an article that they wrote in 2016, does state that there is a lack of evidence that supports not the use of CBD, but a lack of evidence that shows why CBD potentially has effect on anti-inflammatory. However, there are limited studies. However, in another article written by Hamill et al. In 2015, there was also little evidence that showed side effects of the use of CBD or THC. Important to recognize here is I'm not promoting the vaporization or smoking of cannabis. Rather, I'm promoting or trying to educate on the potential benefits of the use of CBD, THC products when they are either administered in what is known right now as a benign way, topically, but also there's a lot of, not a lot, but a few medications on the market that have a blend of CBD and THC that are used in a number of treatments. So the different CBD routes, there, and just to be clear as well, there are some cannabinoid-related drugs out there that we all know pretty well. These are exogenous ligands, so molecules that come from external. They're not in our bodies. So they mimic the action of endogenous molecules. Again, the CBD or CB1 and CB2. So CBD active substance found in cannabis sativa, with the active ingredient is THC, and those are the molecules that are found in the development of CBD drugs. So one of the drugs that is well known is dronabinol, isolated oral THC. It's a pharmacological agent. It is used in chemo-induced nausea and vomiting, and also used in wasting syndromes such as in HIV and AIDS. There is another medication used that is a synthetic derivative of CBD called nabilone. It is not FDA approved in the United States. However, it is widely used in Europe. This particular drug, nabilone, has action on both CB1 and CB2 receptor agonists. It contains the whole plant extract containing THC and CBD. Another compound of CBD is what is known as terpenes or terpenoids, and these account for some of the pharmacological properties of cannabis. When vaporized or smoked, it is also the source of flavors and aromas that differentiate strains. These terpenoids do work synergistically with CBD for a variety of therapeutic effect. That effect is known as the entourage effect. There is demonstrated medicinal effects such as anti-inflammatory and analgesic properties to these terpenoids. Also, interestingly to note, Barron et al. In 2018 posited that analgesic effects were also antagonized by naloxone, suggesting an opioid mechanism. So CBD synergy. So possible therapeutic use of CBD in anti-inflammation, antioxidation, and neuroprotection has been posited by Shaw et al. In 2016. It should not be considered by any means a first line of treatment for pain, but rather when standard medical therapies are not successful and patients seek alternative therapies for their pain. It is important to recognize that anecdotal evidence suggests effect with no identified adverse reactions. Topical use, such as with balms and oils, can have potential significant effect because they avoid the GI pass and first pass liver metabolism. So over the last 20 years, there has been a number of studies, while limited, and I don't want to say credible because I think some of them are credible. They're just limited, and test subjects, numbers of patients tested were kind of limited. So there's been a dozen randomized, double-blinded, placebo-controlled trials, which are kind of the gold standard of research, RCTs. And they did demonstrate some credible pain relief over placebo. Lee et al. Discusses this in their article 2018. While there are varying routes of administration, the most highly studied routes of administration have been vaporization and oral mucosa delivery have the most evidence of effect. Topical use studies are lacking, but commercial availability in states that have legalized, which at this point I believe is most states have legalized CBD, that the availability of these substances must contain a certain level of CBD, THC. Those are somewhat regulated, and although not by the federal government, but on a state-based regulation. I can speak to here in Vermont. So the use of CBD and the growing and harvesting of CBD is now regulated. You have to be registered with the state if you grow it in order to grow it legally, and you have to have it tested before you can sell it. And a certain percentage, a certain level of THC has to be below a certain level in order to make it legal for the use of in CBD products. A couple other studies that were performed, Hamill et al. In 2016 did an extensive study using rat models and transdermal preparation. They identified that transdermal application of CBD significantly reduced joint swelling in these rat models. Oral administration versus topical application, the challenge there is oral administration. There is the reduction of the bioavailability of CBD, and that's due to that first pass metabolism that we know about. We have to have an openness to options, I believe, as healthcare providers. Excuse me. There's no question that additional research is needed. And I do believe, from everything that I've read, that the research does continue a lot in Europe. However, it has picked up pace here in the United States. You know, when we think of alternative therapies, that back when they came out, we thought, wow, that sounds kind of like crazy science or a mad scientist. But, you know, we identified capsaicin as an active topical application for pain. Excuse me. Capsaicin, as you know, comes from peppers, and now is available in pharmaceutical products, and you can buy them in more natural, organic balms and lotions for the use of pain. So I just think we have to be open to what are the possibilities. As we know, pain is devastating for patients, and anyone who's lived with pain at different times in their life know the emotional impact it has. It reduces productivity, affects your behavior, your mental health, and your sleep-wake cycle. You know, we'd be remiss to not recognize that. I think each and every one of us, when a patient presents with pain and you know a history, or you've seen a history, or you see the documented history, you know, there's a certain stigma that comes with that. And I think there has to be an openness to understand a person's pain, how they report it, and what they've tried, what works. You know, the days are gone where we're prescribing opioids, and we need to be open to other areas of treatment, and also to reduce our own biases for people who have chronic pain. There's an incredible amount of feedback that exists on CBD and the use in the treatment of pain. I hear it frequently from patients. I work in a number of urgent clinics, and people present with pain all the time. And many times when I'm doing medication reconciliation, people are using CBD oil, they're using CBD salves, they're using THC, you know, they're smoking marijuana for their pain, and sometimes medically prescribed, but many times not. Again, CBD is not psychoactive, and there is and evidence is lacking on the negative effects of CBD. You know, what we don't know, basically. And but what we do know with CBD, a number of studies, a well-known physician, Jake Teitelbaum, has documented anti-inflammatory and neuroprotective effects that have been identified in reducing joint swelling. Cannabis-based medicinal extracts. Research continues. We need, or the science community needs to isolate the major components responsible for its effects. Lee et al. Emphasizes that we don't know a lot about it, but a lot has not been studied about it. And the U.S. has not studied it as well as Europe has studied it. European studies have demonstrated reduction in pain severity scores in a variety of pain conditions. Yes, those pain conditions many times are neuropathic pain and things like multiple sclerosis, spinal cord injury, brachial nerve injuries, things like that. But if they work in those areas, why would they not work with, osteoarthritis or rheumatoid arthritis? So primarily, oral mucosa administrations have been studied. Obviously, that's been in pill form and spray form. So what does the future hold? The population, the communities, the people we care for, the internet has made information widely available. The boom of legalizing marijuana and legalization of CBD, growing hemp, has piqued people's interest. They want to turn away from pharmaceutical. They're afraid of pharmaceuticals. They have a distrust in big pharma. And so in light of the opioid epidemic and in light of the chronicity of pain, I think as clinicians, we have to have an openness to non-traditional options. As I said frequently, I see patients with in their medication reconciliation that they're using CBD, and I ask them about it. And they intently are watching me to see if there's an air of judgment, and there isn't. I usually, if the conversation goes further, I said, hey, if it's working, then and it's probably not a bad thing. Of course, vaporization of THC, the actual psychoactive component, has its health concerns, obviously lung and heart disease. However, those folks who do choose to smoke marijuana, and it reduces their pain, the alternative could be worse. So I think that we have to be open as clinicians to alternative routes of administration. I think there is a lack of evidence for us to deny the anecdotal testimonies, and why wouldn't we listen to our patients? If that CBD balm is working on someone's knees or ankles or elbows and decreasing the pain, they're applying it every day or they're applying it every other day, and it's working. I think we need to be open to that. So we have to listen to our patients. We have to weigh the lack of risks with the potential benefits, and that potential benefit being pain reduction and an improved quality of life. I think that as prescribers and as clinicians, we need to be aware of the research. I think we have to frequently look back at the research, and I think we need to or look at future research. And I think that we need to know the sources. Where is CBD? Where's the hemp coming from? Many producers here in Vermont, I couldn't even name how many, and these products sell locally all over in many credible stores and health food stores. And they have the farm that it was grown on, how it was made. They have websites that talk about the natural organicness of their medication or of their product. And so I think we have to know as the clinician what is out there and is it credible. We have to pay attention to local to see if there have been cases of reactions or side effects. Right now, the use of CBD topically and in other forms appears to be benign. And I think that we need to just be open to that. We've taken greater risk with pharmaceuticals over the years. Medications that went out on the market seem to work really well. A good example, pain. The medication Vioxx, COX-2 inhibitor, wonderful for pain for certain types of arthritis, ankylosing spondylitis, and then was pulled from the market not many years after with some significant risks of cardiac or cerebral vascular accident incidents. So I think we need to look at what we know. We have to listen to our patients, and we have to just be open to the use of alternative therapies when someone is dealing with pain. Thank you for listening.